By far the most controversial of Donald Trump's cabinet appointments has been his pick for Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And it's been a very strange process. The strangest bit, maybe one of the weirdest public displays of family division that I've ever seen. The former United States Ambassador to Australia, Caroline Kennedy, is the daughter of legendary former US President John F. Kennedy. RFK Jr. is, of course, her cousin. He's the son of Robert F. Kennedy Sr., the brother of JFK, and who, like his brother, died at the hands of an assassin's bullet in the 1960s. If you think modern American politics is wild, it was even wilder back then. JFK was president for just a couple of years before being shot and killed in 1963. And his brother Robert had been Attorney General and a senator, then decided to run to be a Democratic presidential nominee and was shot and killed while doing so in 1968. Anyway, their kids aren't too fond of each other. JFK's daughter, Caroline, only recently finished her stint as US Ambassador to Australia. And she put out that now infamous video last week calling her cousin a predator and urging the Senate committee not to confirm him. She started the video by saying she'd been asked often by people about RFK Jr.'s presidential campaign and what she thought of him.
I did not comment, not only because I was serving in a government position as United States Ambassador to Australia, but because I have never wanted to speak publicly about my family members and their challenges. We are a close generation of 28 cousins who have been through a lot together. We know how hard it's been, and we are always there for each other. But now that Bobby has been nominated by President Trump to be Secretary of Health and Human Services, a position that would put him in charge of the health of the American people, I feel an obligation to speak out.
Okay, so that's understandable and very reasonable, and she has every right to speak out. But it was the way she spoke out that shocked everyone. She started by saying that RFK Jr., Bobby, was unqualified for the role.
He lacks any relevant government, financial, management, or medical experience. His views on vaccines are dangerous and willfully misinformed.
Okay, I just want to stop it there for a sec. She emphasizes willfully. She's not saying that he is misinformed about vaccine safety, but is willfully so. He wants to be misinformed, and he wants to misinform others for his own personal gain. That is a massive criticism. She says that alone should disqualify him from the job. And then she went on an even more personal attack.
But he has personal qualities related to this job, which for me pose even greater concern. I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator.
Whoa, wow. Okay, I'm trying to think of the cousin I like the least. I actually like all my cousins. I would never say anything like that publicly about any of them, even if I didn't like them. Even if I thought they were a predator and I didn't want them in an important government role, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't go out and express it that way. That is in itself predatory and a bit nutty. But it gets even worse.
I watch his younger brothers and cousins follow him down the path of drug addiction. His basement, his garage, his dorm room were always the center of the action, where drugs were available, and he enjoyed showing off how he put baby chickens and mice in a blender to feed to his hawks. It was often a perverse scene of despair and violence.
What? I mean, she is clearly trying to paint the worst possible picture of the guy. RFK's story is one of personal transformation and redemption, at least it was. Yes, he was a bad boy in his youth and he struggled with drug addiction. That was a long time ago, and people can change, Caroline.
That was a long time ago, and people can change. Through his own strength and the many second chances he was given by people who felt sorry for the boy who lost his father, Bobby was able to pull himself out of illness and disease. I admire the discipline that took and the continuing commitment it requires. But siblings and cousins who Bobby encouraged down the path of substance abuse suffered addiction, illness, and death, while Bobby has gone on to misrepresent, lie, and cheat his way through life.
Oh my God, this is absolute character assassination.
Bobby preys on the desperation of parents of sick children, vaccinating his own kids, while building a following hypocritically discouraging other parents from vaccinating theirs. Even before he fills this job, his constant denigration of our healthcare system, and the conspiratorial half-truths he's told about vaccines, including in connection with Samoa's deadly 2019 outbreak of measles, have cost lives.
Okay, so the view that RFK Jr.'s views on vaccination have cost lives, that seems to be the biggest and most important criticism against him. Vaccination saves lives. That is a fact. Good vaccines, well-tested vaccines, save lives. And they do so well only if enough people take them. But they also make drug companies a truckload of money. There is a massive economic incentive to push vaccines hard. And we need a balancing force, especially after the appalling way in which the COVID vaccine was imposed by coercion and threat of loss of jobs and livelihood and liberty in Australia and other countries, which is a form of mandating, and that is simply not okay. But Caroline Kennedy took aim at RFK's position on one of the greatest Australian inventions of all time, the HPV vaccine, which prevents, among other things, cervical cancer.
Bobby is willing to profit and enrich himself by denying access to a vaccine that can prevent almost all forms of cervical cancer and has already been safely administered to millions of boys and girls. During my time in Australia, I worked on the Quad Cancer Initiative, and I learned that cervical cancer is among the top 3 forms of cancer among women in a majority of countries. Tragically, every year, more than 200,000 children lose their mothers. They are orphaned due to a lack of vaccines and screening. Those are the real-world consequences of Bobby's irresponsible beliefs.
There's no doubt that RFK Jr. has some radical beliefs about vaccines. He's been widely slammed for his endless insistence that there is some link between autism and vaccines. There have been so many studies done on that question that have repeatedly failed to find any link, but many think RFK's unwillingness to let it go means he's got other motives. This issue came up during the Senate hearings, and one Democrat senator got very emotional talking about it. Have a listen to this.
Now, some of you are new to this committee and new to the Senate, so you may not know that I am the proud mother of a 36-year-old young man with severe cerebral palsy. And a day does not go by when I don't think about what did I do when I was pregnant with him that might have caused the hydrocephalus that has so impacted his life. So please do not suggest that anybody in this body of either political party doesn't want to know what the cause of autism is. Do you know how many friends I have with children who have autism? The problem with this witness's response on the autism cause and the relationship to vaccines is because he's relitigating and churning settled science so we can't go forward and find out what the cause of autism is and treat these kids and help these families. Mr. Kennedy, that first autism study rocked my world. And like every mother, I worried about whether, in fact, the vaccine had done something to my son. And you know what? It was a tiny study of about 12 kids. And over time, the scientific community studied and studied and studied and found that it was wrong. And the journal retracted the study because sometimes science is wrong. We make progress. We build on the work and we become more successful.
That's New Hampshire Senator Maggie Hassan pointing out some of RFK's worst thinking. But he also has some good ideas about human health generally and the problems with the healthcare system in the US and globally. Given its wealth, America should be one of the healthiest countries on earth. Instead, it's one of the sickest. Terrible nutrition, processed food, obesity, they've all led to America seeing the first decline in life expectancy in generations. And that shouldn't be happening in a rich country. Something is up. The food and pharmaceutical industries are powerful and influential beyond what is in the public interest, and some balancing out is needed. One of the Republican senators who was originally thought to be going to vote against Kennedy's appointment was a man called Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana. He's a doctor, and he repeatedly grilled Kennedy about his claims about vaccines and autism being linked. He decided in the end to vote for him. Explaining this, he said, quote, I've had very intense conversations with Bobby and the White House over the weekend, and with the serious commitments that I've received from the administration and the opportunity to make progress on issues we agree on, like healthy foods and a pro-American agenda, I will vote yes. Other Republicans were more clear in their reasons for voting yes. Senator Roger Marshall is also a doctor. He responded to a Democrat senator who said that he had concerns that Bobby Kennedy would wreck the healthcare bureaucracy in America and go wild.
I hope he goes wild on food safety discussions so that we can actually improve our food safety supply. I hope he goes wild on the healthcare supply chains and, in fact, tries to make sure that drug prices go down instead of bludgeoning pharmaceutical companies, get everybody in the room and make sure that we do this right. Reduce the cost of bringing a vaccine to market, reduce the cost of bringing drugs and therapeutics to market, look at the full supply chain, and somebody with a legal mind may do that. He is no health professional. In fact, he's the first, I believe, and since I've been alive, who's not been a healthcare professional in a scientific sense. But he is a professional in terms of carrying this forward and holding people accountable through the courts. And so maybe it is time to have a different kind of disruptor there. The only way that Senator Kennedy, the only way that Bobby Kennedy and I will get crosswise is if he does actually take a position against the safety of proven vaccines. That will be a problem for me. He answered a very important question to me during the hearing. I asked him specifically if it was his intent to let the scientists of the CDC, the NIH, BARDA, and other organizations to work independently. He said to me under oath that he would. If he fails to do that, that will be a concern for me and something I'll bring up in a future oversight hearing.
US Republican Senator Roger Marshall on why he voted yes for RFK Jr. to be America's health secretary. The other side doesn't get more than $1 billion of taxpayers' money to bring you news from a centre-right perspective like the ABC does to bring you news from a left-wing perspective. In fact, we don't get a red cent from the government. We need voluntary donors and supporters like you to keep going and growing. And we hate asking for charity, so we've done a deal with what we think is the world's best VPN, virtual private network service. It'll keep you and your family truly safe without slowing down your internet speeds, and you can watch Netflix or other streaming services using your regular accounts with them as if you're viewing from any country in the world. And you can sign up for less than $3 a month and get a whopping 83% off the normal price. Just go to piavpn.com/otherside to sign up and get more info. That's piavpn.com/otherside. That was a segment from a recent episode of our fortnightly news commentary show, The Other Side, with me, Damien Curry. If you liked it, support us. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube right now so you don't miss a thing. It's totally free. Just click that subscribe button and the little bell. And check out our Other Side Unplugged show too, and join our mission to actually do something and change Aussie media for the better at othersidetv.com.au. That's othersidetv.com.au. Check it out now.